here with Diana Larsen, Chair of the Agile Alliance Board of Directors, and we're here at Agile 2008, and it looks like a great conference so far. It's a lot of new attendees here. We're in Toronto, first time outside the U.S. I think it's been a lot more people coming internationally as well too. You know, I think we're seeing a real upsurge of adoption of Agile. And where do you see the pace of Agile adoption kind of over the past couple of years?
Oh, it's definitely increasing. What I find is that there are more and more people who are familiar with the term Agile. I was talking with some people in my user group back home in Portland, Oregon, and somebody said, you know, the word Agile has definitely made it into the mainstream. The practices, not so much.
But it's not a bad word anymore.
No, it's not a bad word anymore, and people are curious about it, and hence the kind of numbers of people we're getting at the conference. There's a lot of curiosity. There are a lot of people doing it. This year, I think more than any other year, we have a large number of folks who are attending the conference who are saying, we're at least intermediate. We are not just beginners anymore. Sure. And a couple of years ago, we were seeing a lot of beginners. So that's really shifted, and I think that's an indicator of a trend.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think an organization can kind of do? We're talking about this, a lot of people are, it's not a bad word anymore, but how can they kind of drag their company along? How do you think they can get more acceptance within their organization?
Well, I think to some extent that's organization specific.
Sure.
And because I was talking earlier today with a woman who said that their adoption of Agile went very well because nobody was mandated to do anything. They just sort of set it up, and a couple people tried it, and then a couple more people tried it, and within a few months, everybody was doing it. In other organizations I've talked to, they really had to say, okay, today's the day. We're all going to start doing things differently this day, and they did the sort of transformational thing. Sure. So to some extent, it's working with someone who really understands how to look at the different organizations and say, what's going to be the best approach for you? Because I've seen both the incremental approach work, and I've seen the, big bang transformational approach work.
Absolutely.
So sort of individual organizational culture where that, and other constraints, marketplace constraints and so on that dictate that, I think.
How do you see the role of management in that? Dragging them in, kicking and screaming, or are they kind of the ones?
Well, it depends on what level of management. There are different concerns at the executive management level that there are at the middle management level or functional management level. And for functional managers, I think that the whole idea of self-organizing teams and things can be a little daunting and confusing because it's counter to how they've been used to managing. And a lot of them think that means that we don't need managers anymore, and that can be either scary or seem like a vacation, depending on your point of view. And the reality is that Agile teams still need managers, but they need them to be doing different things. Right. They need them to move more into the idea of servant leadership. They need, but they also need that buffering from the rest of the organization, that helping to manage the boundaries and advocate for the kind of resources and things that the team needs. So the ownership of the goal of the project shifts a bit. So it's now the product owner, the program managers, and the team that own the goal. Sure. And the managers are helping to make sure that that really can happen. And then at the executive level, what we're finding is actually a lot of enthusiasm for Agile because they're really seeing how they can get business results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the money.
Yeah.
So what do you think the vendors and the consultants can really do to kind of, help the practices? What should they be doing better, I guess?
Well, I guess one thing I would say is to really continue to push how the practices work with the principles. There's a reason that all those 12 principles are there in the Agile Manifesto. Sure. And the practices are in support of a whole sort of synergistic system. It's an interdependent system of practices that make this work. And so if for one reason or another you don't want to use one of the practices in your organization, I think it's the vendor's role to really say, well, okay, but what are you going to substitute? What's going to still hold that up? Right. And help keep the rigor in the adoptions. Right. Yeah, I think that is really the role of the vendors and consultants and coaches, is to keep the rigor there.
Sure.
And and the customers get to push back on that a little
Absolutely.
bit, and it's a collaboration, right? Because
Right.
we're agile.
Exactly.
So.